So I just finished watching Doctor Who Empire of Death, and oh boy, was this a disappointing finale. Yeah, I'm just going to say this right up the bat. I'm going to have to talk about spoilers in this basically throughout, so unfortunately, I can't really see anything spoiler free about this, especially without bringing up the events of last week's episode as well. So, yeah, here's your warning 3, 2, 1. So, this reminds me of a lot of RTD finales where basically he tries to go too big and raise the stakes so much and then basically does what he does at the end of Last of the Time Lords and basically does a complete reset. And yeah, that just an absolute complete reset. In fact, I'd argue it's worse than that because at least in the resetting Last of the Time Lords, it wasn't until just after the Master had shot the US Prime Minister and that, so everything that he'd done or killed that up to that point still technically happened, and people still remember this because everyone in the universe is dead at every single moment in time, and yeah, that's done at the very beginning of the episode. So the problem is that you don't really have anywhere to really go from there, to be honest. You don't really have much to go there. Sutek, for the most part, has accomplished his goal and, for the most part, kind of becomes irrelevant, essentially. Like, he's already won, and there's nothing much they can do except for the resolution for it, which, God, it's bloody stupid. It is bloody stupid. But I'm going to talk about it anyway, so yeah. Also, RTD's trying to cram in the memory TARDIS into this and make like all of the Tales of the TARDIS canon into continuity and everything, rather than having them be, their own little thing. And I did not watch, by the way, the Tales of the TARDIS Pyramids of Mars because one, it was a cut down version, and two, it had awful CGI updates and that, and it was basically edited and done by the same people who did the Daleks in Colour. So yeah, I skimmed it. So basically, watched the opening and the ending bits with Ncuti Gatwa and a couple of different effect shots just to compare it. And yeah, that's my mini review of that done. But that was terrible. But yeah, so the Doctor decides somehow, using a whistle is able to take back control of the TARDIS somehow through a whistle. What? Like, Suksek is meant to have full control. And also, I don't get. Also, RTD and that keeps going on about how Suksek is a god. Like, and the Doctor even says, oh, Suksek is the most powerful, being he's ever thought. I mean, maybe there's arguments to be made, but I'd say the Toymaker is easily more powerful because the Toymaker is an actual godlike being. He has his own, he can create his own realm, his own world, his own reality. Suksek is just one of a race of the Osirans. Yes, he is a god-like being with immense power, but he has limits. For one, he's not immortal. He's not an immortal being. He's very, very mortal. And that. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that he couldn't, basically Suksek's gift of sands throughout time to kill everyone. I'm not saying he couldn't do that, but, if you are going to make him god-like, then the way he's defeated is fucking stupid. So, the Doctor is able to basically take back control of the TARDIS through blowing a whistle to flick a few controls after Sutekh takes over the TARDIS. And yes, Sutekh does remain in that shitty CGI dog form for the entire thing. And, oh, God, it's just horrible. It just looks horrible. And that is such a shame. And it doesn't really do anything. Plus, it's when Sutekh speaks, it's never mouth movements either. Yeah, the mouth just snarls and growls. But okay. But then it gets even stupider. So they have a rope. A climbing rope. And climbing ropes are pretty strong. But apparently one of those hooked with a single hook onto the TARDIS console, and then with another hook wrapped around Sutekh's neck like he's a dog, a literal dog, is strong enough, to pull Sutekh through time and space. And my first thought is, why doesn't Sutekh just break free? Like, if he's meant to be all powerful and that, then surely he can just easily break this rope, or turn it to sand, or do something with it, or pull it off of him. And that because there's a good couple of minutes in that before the TARDIS actually, dematerializes and goes into the vortex. So why doesn't he? Why doesn't he? And it makes even less sense because the rope is later broken, and that when the Doctor closes the TARDIS doors, that's apparently enough to break the rope. So that's enough to break it, yet Sutekh, this all-powerful being, is unable to break a rope. And yeah, I mean, the explanation for how people come back at least makes some sort of sense, in that if you kill death, then there's only life. I don't know how that would be reversed, but I think it's just like, oh, Russell T Davies kind of wrote himself into a corner and just did, here's the massive reset again. And the problem is, when you know this type of story, you know where it's going, you're just waiting for it to happen. And unfortunately, RTD's done this type of story one too many times, and it just kind of feels pointless. I mean, the bulk of this running time is not them planning on how to stop Sutekh, really. It's basically trying to find out who Ruby's mother is. Yeah. Because she can help and stop Sutekh. And Sutekh is also trying to look for Ruby Sunday's mother, because he was unable to see who she was. And apparently this bothers him enough to track the Doctor throughout time and space. So maybe it would, but that explanation is also just as fucking stupid. Because, again, spoiler alert, it turns out that at the end of this, when Sutekh is all defeated, hunky-dory, Ruby's mother is just an ordinary human. Nothing special about her, and the reason she was pointing was to the sign that said Ruby Road, because she was naming her. It's just like, what the fuck is this? This is so fucking stupid. But it gets even worse than that. The Doctor's explanation about it, about why Sutekh couldn't find it or anything like that, is because everyone made such a big deal about finding out who Ruby Sunday's mother was. That's why she then became a big deal in this massive time event, because time is memories, blah, 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 which is all fucking stupid because they're able to find her in the DNA database. So just like, if she was ordinary and they could do that all along, then why couldn't they do that before? Again, none of this makes any fucking sense whatsoever. Because the problem is, when RTD goes like this, big and bold like this, and that, he kind of has just written himself into a corner. And it just feels like throughout the runtime, it kind of feels like he doesn't really know what to do, or either he planned an idea like this and is just kind of stolen, because it does feel like it is dragging up to that final point. It really does feel like it's dragging up, and it's a shame because Sutekh doesn't, again, once Sutekh has killed everyone, apart from possessing and killing Mel at one point, Sutekh doesn't really have anything to do. And that, his presence isn't really constantly, felt. Like in Pyramids of Mars, for most of that story, obviously Sutekh is trapped on a pit, in the pyramid in Egypt. And yeah, obviously he's not physically there for the story, but his presence is felt throughout. So yeah, I don't get why this is the case. I mean, I will say the performances are generally pretty good. I much prefer Ncuti Gatwa and that when he's taken down a level on that. I think he went a little bit too much in the other direction when he's shouting and screaming a bit. It's like, okay, it seems like he only does like screams of everything and that, but generally throughout it, when he is toned down, I think that's when he works a lot better. And that, rather than, basically over hyperactive, over exaggerated everything, I think that kind of detracts from it considerably. So, yeah. And this episode, its departure also works at the end. I will give it that. It is a decent departure at the end for Ruby, but she is supposedly due to return at some point. I don't know if it's during the next series or not this year's Christmas special, but next year's. There was no trailer or anything for that, although it has been filmed, which it's meant to feature the Daleks, supposedly. And I think it has been confirmed that it's written by Stephen Moffat. But it's most likely also almost certainly going to be the Daleks because the Terry Nation contract, which, yes, is a real thing. It's a lot more relaxed than it used to be, but it's very much still a real thing. But yeah, this finale, what a letdown, Addicts. I'm just more disappointed than anything because the first part of this is pretty good. The first part was really good, but my God, this wasn't just like a letdown. This was just stupidity at work. Like, as soon as you had Sutekh basically kill everyone, that is the problem. When you kill everyone, there's no one else also to interact with. There's nothing to build up for it. At least, again, with the Utopia, Sound of Drums, and Last of the Time Lords 3 parts, the Massacre hadn't killed and that everyone. There was a resistance building towards it, and that there was, tension and that between it. Whereas this, when there's basically no one else left, there's not a lot you can do in this situation, and it could have worked. It could have worked at it as a sort of desolate outlook and that, but the problem is we need to wrap this up because we've only got, I think this episode's 54 minutes, and by the time this happens, it's like, yeah, we need to get this to kill. And yeah, Sutekh is essentially defeated about 40 minutes in and then killed 5 minutes later by the Doctor, supposedly. Killed and that forever, never coming back, sure, absolutely. And that mysterious, other woman and that who literally breaks the fourth wall and gives a nod to the audience going, have you never seen a TARDIS before? Blah, blah, blah. We still don't know who she is. And I imagine that is something that will be revealed next series. And I imagine that thing is just going to be just as disappointing on who she is and that as well. Because this was just a let down for a series finale. It was just a let down. I mean, I knew there was going to be a Deus Ex Machina in this, that everything was going to get reset. But everything around the defeat of Sutekh was so fucking stupid. Like, having the reset was was one thing to say, oh, everyone's suddenly alive and that again. But the way it went about, it was just one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in my life. And it's another reason that makes me urge more and more towards cancelling my Season 1 Steelbook pre-order. I think I probably will keep it and that for now, because I'll probably do a live stream later on, but this series overall is just being a massive disappointment. It just really has. It has been just a massive, disappointment and that, and this series finale really just screams just like RTD is just essentially recycling stuff, but just making it worse in a lot of areas as well. So yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on watching.